Hello everyone. This lecture is part of a preview to my Microsoft Excel course on Udemy. The course is called Practical Microsoft Excel Masterclass. If you like this lecture, do check out the full course on Udemy. The link has been provided in the description below. Also provided in the description below is a coupon code. The first few students who use the coupon code can access the course for free. If you decide to take the course, I request you to please leave behind a review. In this lecture, we will be looking at how to identify cells containing a certain text pattern. This is not a direct lookup in the sense that we are not trying to look up an entire value within a cell. Rather, we are trying to find out if a particular cell contains a text pattern. So it can also have more text in addition to the text pattern that we are looking for. The specific problem with the data that we will be looking to solve is this. Given a list of addresses in the UK, count the number of addresses that are from London. That is, the addresses that have the text London in them. This is the data that we will be working with. As you can see, this is actually a list of addresses in the United Kingdom. There are about 41 addresses here. I will be looking at two different approaches for this. How can we identify if a cell has the text pattern London in it? The first approach is relatively straightforward. I select a cell inside my data, then go to the Data tab and select the filter option. So in the filter, I'm going to use the filter option of contains. So this will check if the cell contains the text we will be inputting here. And since we are looking for the text London in the address, I will add in the value London. And as you can see, you can select two different criteria in this filter. Both of those conditions may be joined by an AND statement or an OR statement. That is, both of them have to be true or one of them has to be true, depending upon what is the use case. So I'll close the filter. Here is a list of all the addresses which have London in them. If this is a larger list, I can simply select this row and see that there are two addresses. The count here is 3, but the addresses are 2 because the count also includes the column heading. So that was the simpler approach with the filter option from Data tab. However, if the data changes, the entire operation has to be redone, and in some cases you might also want to have that number automatically refresh itself. For such scenarios, you can use the formula based approach, which I will be looking at next. The second approach that I'm going to be looking at is based on the formula. The formula that I'm going to be writing is a multi-layered one. So I'm going to be first splitting the different aspects of the formula just to show you how it works. And then finally we will write the consolidated formula in one place. First of all, how do I identify if a text pattern appears within a single cell? That can be done by using the find or the search functions. There are a couple of key differences between the find and the search functions. The search function is case insensitive, whereas the find function is case sensitive. Second, you can use wildcard characters within the search function, but you cannot use wildcard characters within the find function. So because of these two reasons, the search function is a little bit more flexible, and that is what we are going to be using. However, depending upon the use case that you might be working on, you might find that the find function is more useful for you. Okay, so I will create a column called search, and we will use the search function. So it takes two mandatory variables and one optional variable. The first variable find text is basically the text pattern that we are looking for. In this case, it is London. Like I said, this is case insensitive, so it doesn't matter whether I give capital case London or small case London, and it will be, or camel case London, and it will still be identified. Within text is the text within which London needs to be searched. This in the current situation is cell A2. And the start number is the position in the within text from which the search needs to start. In this case, I want to search in the entire text, so I don't have to give this, so that it takes the default value of position 1. So I'll close the bracket. And as you can see, I'm getting an error. This is because the text that we are looking at in A2 does not have the value London in it. Let me just drag this formula down to extend it to the other cells. As you can see, most of the results that we get are the error, but 2 of the cells have the value 27 and 15 in them. Now what does this mean? Search function basically returns the position of the matched pattern within the text that we have given. So that means the text London is in the 27th position in this cell A39. Similarly, text London is in the 15th position in cell A42. In the others, the text London was not found. So once I have identified which cells have the value and which cells don't, I need to somehow use this to create a flag for the presence of London or the absence of London. I can do that in this case by using a combination of the if and if error functions. So I will create a column called flag. First I will use the if error function. If error function can be used to identify and handle errors within Excel. So I will say if error B2, that is if the formula in B2 results in an error, then change the value to 0. As you can see, since B2 had an error, the value got changed to the value 0. However, the value for cell C39 and C42 remained 27 and 15. Additionally, if you want to convert this flag into a 0-1 flag rather than a 0 versus position of the matched text as is currently the case, I can also use the if condition. So addition to the if error, I'm going to write the if function, and the logical test that I'm going to be doing is if the result of the if error function is 0. So if it is 0, I will let it be 0. If it is non-zero, then I will change it to 1. So this basically changes the position number to simply 1. So at the end of this, we will get a flag variable. I can simply extend the formula down, and as you can see, I have the row 39 having the value 1, the row 41 having the value 1. So now it is straightforward for me to get the count of the number of cells. I can simply use a sum function of the entire column. I get the value 2 because 2 cells have been flagged off as containing the text pattern. So that is the entire logic behind writing these formulae. I split the formula into 2 different columns here just for the purpose of demonstrating it to you. However, in practice, you would be writing a single formula. Let me show you how that will look like. I will create a variable called flag final, and that will be a single formula which will give me everything. Equal to, first I'll write the if, then the if error, and then the search. So I'm trying to find the text London, within the text A2. I don't need to give a start number. And then for the if error, if the search results in an error, then I want to populate the value 0. And finally for the if the if error returns a value 0, I want to allow it to be 0. However, if it returns something other than 0, I simply want to populate the value 1. And finally, I want to create a sum of the entire column, which, as we saw earlier, is 2. Here is a brief summary of the approaches that we looked at. The first approach was relatively straightforward. What we did was we filtered out all the cells containing the text London by using the data tab and the filter option. Once we had filtered it down, we simply highlighted the entire column and saw how many cells it contained. Approach 2 was a slightly more complicated approach. However, it's a lot more flexible. The first step that we executed there was to identify the cells containing London in them. We did this using the find or the search function. The second step was to create a flag for the cells identified in step 1. We did this using if and if error functions. Finally, the third step was to obtain a count of the flag column. We did this using sum. However, you can also use the countif function.